Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and today we're going to be asking the question, should you be upset that the Santa Claus have not come out on Global? Let's go ahead and dig in. Now, there's a lot that goes along with this question, and I've been seeing comments going on other YouTube videos. I've seen other YouTube videos. I've seen, Reddit threads. I've seen everything kind of surrounding the Santa Claus right now. And I think people, it's a piece of gear that was extremely hyped up when it was released on JP a few years ago, especially considering we have a lot of evasion meta in Global, and we just have never seen it. And, with Christmas coming around and kind of with the Holy Lance being released and us not getting access to Holy Lance, it's kind of revived this, where's Santa Claus, right? It's kind of made people kind of crawl back into their Santa Claus hole and be like, where the hell are you? Why are you not here? And, I've seen echoes of this as well through the Holy Lance, through the Gigant Axe, right? We also have seen it with the Tearfang that came out with Pumpkin Spice Frederica. And it seems like there's a swath of seasonal equipment that is not released on the GL side. And, there's hope from some people that this might come out next week. And that would be really exciting. And it would be really fun. And it would be a nightmare for me who hates fighting evasion compositions. But I think for the most part, we may not ever see it on Global. And I'm okay with that. And I don't think we need to be maybe as outraged as people seem or behave. I think, with the amount of GL buffs that we already get, the fact that we have access to evasion vision cards that JP has no access to, right? Like the Venera and Shadowlinks VC. The fact that we have access to Secrets of the Heart is not a limited time VC, right? On JP, that is a limited time VC. The fact that we have GL Zazan, the fact that we have, VC buffs across the board, I don't think we need to be upset about Santa Claus and some of these pieces of gear that frankly are not the best, right? Like looking at the Holy Lance, it has Undead Killer on it, you guys. Has Undead Killer 30, Defense Penetration 20. Don't tell me you're going to be putting this on your Winter Luartha, and you're not going to put it on any of your Pierce units, right? Wind Spear is just better, right? So I don't quite understand kind of the frustration or the outrage over not getting the piece of gear. Gigant Axe, I can understand. I actually think out of all of the gear that we've lost, I actually think the biggest case to release a piece of gear is Gigant Axe, because we don't have really good axe options on Global. But other than that, I'm not too bothered, right? We're going to be getting the black suit here in the near future, which is going to give 21 evade with plus 10 evasion down here in defense penetration 20. That's 31 evasion. You're going to be using this quite a bit. Yes, not all the jobs can equip it, but we're going to be getting that soon enough, right? I don't think we need Santa Claus. I don't think it's something we have to get. What I think the bigger issue is at hand, and I think there is a bigger issue at hand, I think the biggest problem is that the seasonally released units, right? So that's going to be all the summer units. That's going to be Halloween units. That's going to be winter units, right? They're released without content alongside of them. And of course, there's content going on in the game right now, right? Of course, we have Trials of Reckoning. We just had the first Another Story event for the Crystal Warriors. Of course, there's content that is actively being released at the game. But the fact that we are releasing special winter units, and there were previously winter farming events, right, on the JP side, I think that's more of the issue. I think the fact that there's no content to go alongside of these units is a bigger problem than the fact that there has been equipment omitted, right? I think you could make a case that if Santa Claus had released on GL last year, we would be in a much worse place for evasion with GL Zazan and a lot of these other evasion units than we are right now, right? And I think, if you could imagine the impact that would have had on Global, because we had an evasion meta far before JP did, it would have been substantial, and it would have been, I would say terrible. It would have been not fun. So I think that's the most important thing to kind of think about. And I think it's important to focus on the fact that it's the content not releasing that's kind of the true issue, not necessarily the equipment, right? Of course, it would be cool to have the equipment, but just having something for winter would be nice. Having, for example, a ribbon rerun event would be great, right? That would be a very special winter content that they could release. It doesn't even have to be winter themed, right? You know, if we knew, for example, that like, oh, when they're releasing these seasonal events on global, we're going to have an opportunity to get some gear that we used to be able to get, or that I missed, or that as a new player, I had no chances to get access to, right? Like if we had something like that, that would be great, right? But instead, what we're kind of left with is a world where we get the unit, we get the vision card, and we don't get the content. And I think that's the biggest issue out of everything, is that we are not getting the content to go alongside this. Now, I think I want to be clear, like, I think it's intentional, right? And of course, we are getting the unit months ahead of time in terms of the JP scale. But I think if you are going to remove something, right? And I think a good way to think about this is like MMOs, right? If you are in an MMO and you are making balance adjustments, right? Kind of the rule of thumb is to always give, not take away. Because as soon as you start taking away from the consumers, as soon as you start taking away from the player base, it might not be perceived, like it might not actually be taking away, it might just be a balance fix, but it's going to be perceived as taking away, right? So on the GL side, even though, you know, a lot of players don't like recognize that we have access to a lot of VCs that JP doesn't have, that we have access to VC individual global buffs, the perception when you do something like this is that you are taking away. And I think that's a big problem. And I think that's the biggest problem here from Square Enix's perspective, is they really need to kind of batten down the hatches and figure out how they can adjust this so that it is perceived not necessarily as a taking away, but as an adjustment or a kind of positive experience, right? Like I said, give a ribbon event. People would go nuts if you released a ribbon event, right? Like so many people don't have access to that piece of gear, and giving access to that in itself is not going to change the balance of the game at all, right? Ribbon has already been released for a very long time. It's just that players don't always have access to it. So do that instead, right? Change something else, or give something instead of just taking away. I think that's kind of the moral of the story in terms of this video. And I hope a lot of you guys are kind of hearing me when you see this, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, this is so stupid. But you know, whole game perspective, it's not really, right? Like GL still gets a lot more than the JP side does. But when you're a consumer and when you are a player of a game, and when you have a roadmap very similar to what we have on global, when you have simultaneous releases, right? When you have JP releasing the same event as global, and JP gets something that we don't get alongside that, it feels like you're taking away. It feels like you're punishing. And that is, you know, that is on Square Enix. You know, if this had happened the other way around, right? No doubt it would feel like they were taking away from JP players, right? And I think that's probably, you know, where I'm going to leave it for right now, is just have some perspective on, you know, the actual game. I don't think you need to be upset. But I think what you should be more upset about is not necessarily the lack of equipment. I think it's going to be the lack of content and the concept of this taking away. This concept of, you know, nerfing but not buffing, so to say, right? Like the global buffs to vision cards, incredible, right? And while I guarantee they are probably done for balancing and rebalancing when you look at kind of the meta of global versus JP, you know, they're done through buffs. They're not done through nerfs. So anyway, everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you do want to support me, you can use my affiliate link, dig.gs/coins. You can also go to dig.gs/offer as well, and have a great rest of your day. And I hope you guys can let go of your rage for the Christmas. See you guys later.